Ačiū labai, Petrai. Valio, viskas ant YouTube. Ir tada mane grąžinkite hostų.
Labas rytas, good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, good.
Ačiū, Petrai, už grąžintas teisės. Ir laukiam linko chat'e, jeigu galima.
So, I was wondering if I should share screen from my computer with the lecture.
It depends on how it's more comfortable for you.
I think it's easier if I can go to next slide when I want,
Yes,
without
yes.
saying next all
For
the
sure.
time.
And you know that
Should we test it now? We can.
Yeah, it would be great. We have some couple minutes, so we can test it.
Let's see if I can. I'm disabled for a moment.
Disabled?
It says host disabled attendee screen sharing.
Yeah, it should, just a second, it should be, now it should be okay. Maybe you just turn off and start one more time.
Yes, now I can try to see. I cannot see how to choose my.
You should, first of all, you should open your presentation.
Yes, it's open.
It's opened, and you now push share screen.
No,
And,
no, I see dela skärmen. Here we should see here.
I see your presentation in your file.
I cannot see it myself. Maybe it takes some time. Preview. It says that I'm sharing my screen, but I can't see it.
But it's interesting that we can see, but
Yes.
you don't. There is 4 minutes left. Maybe you could just restart your computer and log in one more time. Once more.
You can try to share once more, maybe.
Hello.
Hello.
Do you hear me?
Yes. No. Okay, then we can try if you share, maybe.
Maybe a little bit wait, because it's till few minutes till beginning.
But Ernest, if you share, we will see if it works.
Yes, okay, I'll just will open.
Mhm. It's very good that on YouTube, because yesterday I saw everything once more time. That's very good. If I miss something, I will find.
Good morning,
Good
everyone.
morning. Good morning.
Nice to see you again.
Yes.
What do you think? Can we start our meeting?
Not yet, Czeslavas, because I am trying to share Lars' presentation. Just to check, because Lars, if he's sharing, he cannot see that presentation. Just a minute.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Nice,
Fine.
thank you.
Yes.
Good morning.
Morning.
I don't know for what reason, because I checked everything yesterday. I can't open the presentation.
Mm. Mm. Maybe we could use the PDF I sent, or if I use my own PDF.
It's okay, we can start. I will share. Okay, I found it. Czeslavas?
Yeah, we can start, yeah?
Yes.
our sounds for the best future.
Yes.
Lars, please. Ernest, okay.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Sounds in Nature event second day from the 5th. And I hope you have a nice remembers and impressions from yesterday, or some worries and questions. Both are very okay. And the second day will start our guest from Sweden, University of Skövde, Lars Vipsjö. Lars, please open your magic day with the whispers of land art storytelling. It is very beautiful to have skills or be gifted by telling stories about beauties of our main home, nature, and the biggest support land. So Lars, it's now your turn to share, and thank you. And as we agreed, maybe I will share your presentation and somehow we will manage to show it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the chance to being in this project, the off-season art gardening, and to share some knowledge and thoughts about land art and land art storytelling, or maybe it shouldn't have said the story of site-specific art. It should have been a story of site-specific art, but it is like it is now. This is a movement, you could say, that started its evolution in the latter part of the 7th century, when practitioners, artists, wanted a more engaging dialogue between artworks and viewers. Before this, if we go to the next image, next slide. Before this, like sculptures and also images had their frame or the pedestal, but in this movement, when it began, mostly by the minimalist artists in the 760s, they took away the pedestal, and when they did that, you as a viewer or the gallery visitors, they became more in the same room as the artwork, you could say. So this is one, just an example of an art piece. And this is another one from here in Skövde, at the art hall, close to the art museum in the city. This was an exhibition that I visited for soon 20 years ago. And it was very, the use of willow trees or sallow trees is quite common in land art, also outside the gallery, because you can, if they are fresh, you can put them in the earth and they will start to grow again. But this movement, you could, like here, you could say it was a contrast to the white cube of the galleries or the museums. And if we go to the next slide, this is maybe another reason to why people or artists started to move out from the galleries, because it was a critique against seeing as art as just commodities, where many times the artists themselves didn't earn the big money. It was the galleries, maybe. So you could see the Robert Rauschenbergs, the young artist in that time, when he bought a drawing from Willem de Koning and erased it, like a statement against this art as commodity, maybe. I mean, he could have other reasons also. We go to the next slide. This is more images from or art made by Robert Rauschenberg. In this time, in the 50s and 60s, there was this art theorist Clement Greenberg. Greenberg was very interested in paintings from the abstract expressionism, the American abstract expressionism. And he theoretized around what was this special about paintings. And he meant that it was the 2D character of them. And what does the young artists do then? They started to do paintings that wasn't just two-dimensional. Like Rauschenberg here, he even used a stuffed bird in the painting or at the painting. And also the goat, very known from the Stockholm Modern Art Museum, a painted goat. Here we have more minimalist art, which you even can walk on if you want, on the flat floor. If we take next image, you see one example when this happened. So the kids was allowed to walk on the art here. Next image. And this time in history, in the art history, is described by Rosalind Krauss in her very well-known essay, Sculpture in the Expanded Field, how sculptures went from being something that was standing on a pedestal to it was also possible to be that a sculpture could be like a hole in the dirt, in the ground, like here. Yes, we take the next image. This is Tony Smith. We saw the cube by him in the beginning. He was when he was interviewed, I forgot to write here who it was that interviewed him, but it was what he said in the interview that was most interesting. He described an experience that was very important for him and became important also for other artists. How he was driving one night, a dark night, on a completely new road, and he felt that the experience from this drive was more interesting than many artworks had been until then for him. And this text, if we go to the next slide, we see inspired Robert Smithson, a very well-known land artists or earthwork artists, maybe the most well-known. He inspired by Tony Smith's words, he took a bus trip to from New Jersey to the suburb where he himself grew up, and he took a lot of pictures, photographs from that trip, and wrote an essay at the same time. They say Monuments of Passaic, the name of the suburb. So here you see, I mean, this is not art, but if you you could imagine the things you see as art if you decide to. So Robert Smithson described these things you see as monuments, art monuments. You can find the complete book of Robert Smithson collected writings on the web. As you see you can just Google for it and you can find it. Yeah, we can take next step. Next slide. Entropy is something that is, I think many land artists is using as a part of the monuments or the artworks. When they make something out in the landscape and just leave it there and let it entropy do its thing and take it back to the nature, we could say. But entropy, you can also find this in communication theory. And I know that Robert Smithson was interested also in this. Entropy is in communication theory the opposite to redundancy, when everything is very clear. And if you talk about redundancy in art, then you could say the things that getting boring because you are so used to them. So, but it's hard to completely use entropy also, because then people will not understand that it's art. Yes, next slide. So this is an art piece that could be called Entropy Made Visible, an art piece by Robert Smithson when he buried this woodshed partially with I think it was like 20 or 30 truckloads of earth. And the upper right image is how it looks today. It's at the Kent State University in Ohio. So you can read about it in the sign, partially buried woodshed, but you can't see the art piece anymore, maybe. Or you see the art piece as it is today. Next slide, please. This is another type of land art, quite ecological in its how it is described, you could say. A time landscape. It's nature behind a fence. So it's just leave there to become a part of the nature again, you could say. I think it's not the right thing to say, maybe pre-colonial, but not pre-humankind, because there were humans in North America before the white men came there. Yes, we can take next slide. Could be this piece should have come right after partially buried woodshed, I think. It's just a glint back in art history to Caspar David Friedrich and the wreck of the ship Hope. You see the ship in the ice. Yeah, we take next slide. This is one big earthwork or earth art by Michael Heiser, who used to say about his installations out in the nature that they were not placed in one place, they were the place. So yes, we could take next slide too here. And you could connect Michael Heiser's art piece to this one. And here it is the character in the painting that experience the nature. But if you go to where Michael Heis's artwork is and experience the artwork, then you will experience the nature. It's a big difference, I think. Yeah, next slide. Yes, this part about the dialectic approach, it's very important for my presentation tomorrow about digital site-specific narration, but this or storytelling. But this because Robert Smithson, he meant that the art piece out in the nature, in the landscape, it was a site. But when he put the art in the gallery, that was a non-site. It could be stones from the place out in the nature and a map on the wall, and so it's pointed out to the real art piece out in the nature. But maybe the piece in the gallery, is that really an art piece in this land art notion? Maybe. We take the next slide. I have spelled Nancy Holst. It isn't Nancy Holst, it's Nancy Holt. This is maybe the most known work from her, the sun tunnels. They're very big. You can walk in them without your head banging into them. And when the sun shines from the right angle, there will be like star constellations in the tunnel. Yeah, we can take next slide. Anna Mendieta is another female land artist, a Cuban artist, died young from a fall of out from a window. Some people say it was a murder by the artist Carl André because they were married. We'll never know if it's true, but it was very tragic anyway. We can take the next one for more examples from Anna Mendieta's art. So this is maybe land art that it's very easy to understand. It's land art combined with what is the word? Performances, like performances in the nature, and which will disappear. For example, like the upper right image, it will disappear when the ice melt. And yeah, all of these images is about passing time, I could think, maybe. We could take the next slide. This is another way of making land art by walking. Richard Long is an English artist, very known for this. You see here the Dusty Boots line. We can take the next slide. And this is how he make the art in the gallery. These stones are not from the place outside because those walkings could have been in Lapland here in Sweden, or it could be in Himalaya, or in North America. So the stuff he showed in the gallery could be collected close to the gallery out in the landscape. So it really didn't have anything to do with what he showed on images or photos. It was more left to the gallery visitors to try to connect to the places out in the nature. So it's a difference to Smithson's non-sites, because this, even if it could look like the same method, it's differences in what they wanted. We take the next slide. So more examples of lines by Richard Long. We can take the next slide. This is another walking artist, Hamish Fulton, who you can find if you Google for Hamish Fulton. You can find a lot of stuff on internet by him. So for him, all artworks is about walking in some way. So, and you can read this as a kind of statement for what he meaning with his art. So an artwork may be purchased, but my works cannot be sold or stolen. All my works are related from the shortest to the longest, from the first to the most recent. I mean, it could, we can all sign that, maybe. Yeah, we can take the next slide. So this is just an artwork from my own times when I, in the 90s, when I made more art and land art, you could say. You can take the next slide. So this is more like a kind of performances. The lure was important here. If we go back once, you can see it's one of those lures. From the beginning, I tried to create a real old birch lure, but it ended up that I wouldn't hurt the trees, so I made one lure, and then I copied the rest from with a copy machine only, and then took it back out in the nature like here. We go to the next slide again, and the next one. Yeah, yes, rock and roll in the nature. So. And there, yes. So this is, then I started at an art program at the university here in Skövde called the computer art program. But I was still very connected to the nature. So this is from my degree exhibition at the museum. Where you could sit in this the building you see in the image. It's something you can find out in the nature among many places, fishing sites and things like that. And in this art piece, you could sit in it and look at the video. And this art piece was also like Robert Smithson's non-sites. Pointing to places in the nature. So here, and the images are from places which I used to walk with my dog at that time. In the upper right image, there is a newly built road that cut off an old road. So in the forest there, or what, in the landscape, there is a part of a road that doesn't lead anywhere. It just ends. And from the same area, close to Skövde, but it's a rural area where you see the rest of a fence, a garden fence, but now it's just a part that is in it's an industrial area where a little in those days. I think it's today probably there is standing a house over this place, so it's no nature there anymore. Okay, we can take next slide. So these images you see here, they are from the military training field. It's a project close to Robert Smithson's walk in Passaic, the suburb where he took photos. But these images are from, I think, the training in driving motorcycles over the, I don't know the English word for gunga. Yeah. You drive a motorcycle on the top upper left image until it tip over. And then I think what I mean here is that if you do these things, you will be very aware of yourself in the time and in the present. So they are supposed to train it for military training. You can drive motorcycles, or you can drive a terrain vehicle. In the down left image, you see there you can see how many percent the road is lutar. I don't. Yeah, I think you understand. If you sit in the car, or if you try to walk and see how many percent the ground is, I think, and the image in the middle is I think it's just a wall standing out on a field with a window in it, and I think it's there for training to throwing hand grenades. And the image down in the right corner is I think they have trained to make a road over the wet land. It doesn't lead to anything. So all these pieces, I mean, could be land art pieces. Next slide, please. This is more, this is from an art school that I both have gone through myself, but also been a teacher in. So these are example by a pupil, Sara Axelsson, which she created, which shows, I think, how easy it is to be creative and make land art, and just leave the stuff there and take photos maybe, and then go home and let it be. Next slide, please. So one more example from this. I think this is the last slide. Yes, it was. So very welcome with thoughts or comments or questions maybe.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Lars, for such an inspiring presentation, and with all of you second day, but I am getting more and more in love with land art for his or its sustainability. For that, I came to the idea that it can be brought to people's yards, to people's balconies, for example, like that part of star constellation and the sun, just integrated next to some, I don't know, tree or somewhere. So it's very sustainable, it's very practical, and can be very close to the people, and like a link, a connection between the nature and the people. I'm coming with some ideas as well. About the questions, I suggest to leave it for the discussion time after we have all 4 our presenters for today, and we will have that discussion time. And as I see, we have some new people today. I would like to repeat some technical information about the issues of translation and recording. And would like to remind you, as long as you are participating, your participation is an agreement to be recorded and to be shown in some reports or some places where it's necessary for a project to be shown. So as long as you are participating here, you are becoming a part of the project. But if you don't want to be this part so close, you could go to the YouTube link and to watch the YouTube streaming for this event. And about the translation, we have a possibility for the translators. There is a menu bar usually at the end of the Zoom, and there is a globe icon, and you just need to press and to choose the language. Yes, and what is a really important thing, that this project is lasting for 3 years almost already, or almost, and this is a creative Europe project, and it connects Lithuania, Sweden, and Netherlands artists, people, and people, and nature, and countries, and all of us to become like one art piece. So this Creative Europe project is for the 3 countries, but I think it's just the beginning about it. And we have the next speech from Ausra, and maybe Czeslavas, you could introduce him.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Lars.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Lars. It was a very interesting speech about, and for me, it was very interesting point of your presentation, this point where we're talking about site-specific art and not specific art. Nature, about nature in art and against galleries. This point for me, it would be interesting. I want to ask you questions in the discussion about this point. Is it good? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Lars. Yeah, I want to introduce now Ausra, because we are yesterday presented in this time. I presented my thoughts or notes about land art and land in nature through my practice, and I want to say now that the lecture Art Meaning, Public Space, Land Art, and Local Specificity will be presented by Ausra Trakšelytė, an art historian, critic, and curator, finished PhD studies at Vilnius Academy of Arts in 2012. His fields of interest are contemporary visual art, public art, and site-specific art and theory. In Vilnius Academy of Arts, Ausra, of course, has some educational she have in educational process, she giving lectures. And this report, Ausra will talk about art in public space, its different models, starting with the statues and monuments, as well as presenting examples and modernist nature, ending with the extended concept of art in public space, site-specific art, land art, and community-based art. So what I say, maybe it can be not enough. I think that Aushra will says now, and I saw that she's now in our screen. Aushra, please, screen is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So first of all, I'm so sorry. A huge misunderstanding that happened yesterday, but I hope you forgave me, and I will start my lecture. So first, I will share my screen. I hope it works well. Yes, I need to do some preferences to allow share screen. Okay. Wait a screen. Sorry, just a minute. Each time with screen to share screen is difficult. Right. Just a moment. Sorry. How does it work?
Aushra, if you have some trouble for sharing your screen, maybe we could do that like we did with Lars.
Okay, I can do it. So can I send you in the chat, I guess?
Presentation?
Yes.
We do have your presentation.
Or
you did some changes?
It's okay. I changed a bit, few words, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, I will talk, and you will.
Okay. So I'm looking for your presentation.
Okay. Thank you very much. So I will also let you know when I want to change the slide. Okay. Is it open for you? Yes. Okay, thank you very much for helping. So I will start. So on the one hand, this topic is widely presented and has its own professional and critical discourse, and on another, as a specific model of art with different forms and types, it gives us various definitions about what is public art. So if you can go for next slide, I would say that in one way or another, public art are visually and physically accessible to the public, installed or staged in public space, usually outside, part of our public history or evolving culture and collective memory. Till now, we are surrounded with examples of classical work of art in public space, but at the same time, modern sculpture or even community-based art began to emerge and expand. So I will try to present not only some models of art in public space, but also some difficulties which are connected with this topic. Also, I will introduce with some artist works and projects as an examples. Next slide, please. But before, let's look at some types that suit a particular work of public art and their environmental integration. So the types are stand-alone, integrated into facade or landscapes, applied to surface, installation where artwork and site are mutually amended, ephemeral or not permanent, interaction, art that contain interactive components. Next slide. So the presentation is consists in 3 parts, and the first one is classical artwork in public space, statues, monuments, and anti-monuments. Okay, next slide. So the longest history as an art in public space has statues, the realistic full-length figure of person or animal. It could be real or mythical. More or less the same long tradition has another form of art, and I would like the next slide. It's monuments, sculpture, a group of sculpture, or sculpture integrated with architecture. It is examples from Vilnius. So the monuments is explicitly created to commemorate a person or event which has become relevant to social group as a part of their remembrance of historical times or culture heritage. Due to its artistic, historical, political, technical, or architecture importance. And the next slide, I also use Rosalind Krauss, who wrote the very first article about changes in sculpture field at 1979, and she pointed out that the monument or monumental sculpture has its own logic. It sits in a particular place and speaks in a symbolic tang about the meaning or use of the place. It is a mark at a particular place for a specific meaning and or event. The logic of representation and marking are normally figurative and vertical, and the pedestals are an important part of the structure since they mediate between actual site and representational site. So monumental sculpture usually is a way to imply and spread the national symbolism with ideological or propaganda goals. And sometimes it has memorial character. Because of our traditional understanding at the sense of permanence, monuments still are one of the leading figures and the most common forms in public space. Many people prefer figurative statues because or monuments because it is easy to understand and recognize. Can we go to the next slide? But as an opposite to monumentalism appear anti-monument or counter-monument. The artworks in public space that does not present or are connected with ideology, grand history figures, or symbolic images. So in one way or another, anti-monument is opposite reaction to the notion of a monument, as well as the meaning that goes behind public monumental art. And I would like to show a few examples. So next slide. Korean artist Doho Suk, questioning the role of memorials and statues dedicated to illustrious individuals by turning the traditional monument upside down in his artwork for public figures. Instead of single figure perched on her or his pedestal, Suk creates a pedestal supported by hundreds of miniature anonymous male and female figures, focusing the viewer's attention from the individual to the masses. Or another, and the next slide, 2,146 stones monument against racism by the conceptual artist Jochen Gers. It was a 3-year project as a collective production with art students from the Saar College of Visual Art in Saarbrücken. For his uncommissioned intervention in public space, Research was done at the Jewish communities in Germany, and then a list was drawn up of all the Jewish cemeteries that existed in the country before the Second World War and the Nazi regime persecution of Jews. The names were engraved on the underside of pavement stones of boulevard in front of Saarbrücken Palace. Over a period of several months, the original stones were exchanged at night until all 2,146 engraved stones were in place. When the measurements was finally made public, the making visible of invisible installation in public space was discussed, including with the state government. This led to the decision to rename the square, and the square was renamed Monument again, the square of the invisible monument. So shortly about part one, and we can go to the part two, and next slide. Avant-garde artworks, modern sculpture, and public space. So it's funding public art. From an art historical point of view, sorry, there are many changes in public art, and it starts with modern era, both in Europe and United States. Around 1900, realism in sculpture began to move away. In other words, lost the most rudimental human form and began to appear as a completely abstract form. At 1935, in United States, start New Deal art program were intended to develop national pride in American culture. The seek was to make art accessible to all people. Next slide, please. In this case, I would like to pay attention to Art and Architecture program, a structure for funding public art, which is still utilized today. This program allotted 0.5% of total construction cost of all government buildings to the purchase of American art for them. Same or similar programs was adopted and still existing in Europe. For example, in Finland, the percent for art principle was first introduced as an official government policy in connection with the construction of Finnish parliament buildings in early 1930s. In 1991, the city of Helsinki became the first city to adopt the policy for all building projects, which lead to a vast growth in urban art, even with suburban areas. Or in Ireland, 1% of the cost of all public works can be allocated to commissioning a work of art. The scheme was introduced in 1978 and extended to all government departments in 1997. Next slide. Such works of art mostly are large, abstract, decorative, modern or contemporary sculptures made for government or corporate plazas, spaces in front of office buildings, skyscraper art rooms, parks, and other public venues, usually funded by government programs. And next slide. Such works of art mostly are called by a slang term Plop art or Plonk art. The term implies that the work is unattractive or inappropriate to its surrounding, that it has been thoughtlessly plopped where it lies. The term was coined by architect James Vince in a 1970 essay, Public Art, Private Art, published in a journal, Art in America. Despite that these kind of public works has negative reputation and foregrounding functionalism over aesthetics, they are meant to be as a gift of the government and made an effort to integrate art into environmental design. Next slide, please. The approach to the public art changed during the 70s. Following the civil rights movement's claim on public space, the alliance between urban regeneration programs and artistic efforts also received ideas of sculpture. Public art acquired a status beyond mere decoration and visualization of official national histories in public space. It became much more about the public. Moreover, public art discourse shifted from a national to local level, consisted with the criticism of commercialization and art as product in visual art practices at the time. Public art started to become a way to expose and critique the surrounding public space, not to beautify them. So let's look at a very important example in the next slide. The modern sculpture Tilted Arc by artist Richard Serra was installed in Federal Plaza at 1981. The sculpture was commissioned by the United States General Service Administration as a part of its Art in Architecture program. Tilted Arc was almost 4 meters tall, 36 meters long, 50-ton steel slab that cut across the Federal Plaza in Lower Manhattan. Instead of focusing on the optical experience of sculpture, looking at it from a distance, Serra wanted the passers-by to experience the sculpture in a physical way. Unfortunately, Tilted Arc became a target of criticism from the moment it was installed. For example, employees of 2 government divisions that were hosted on Federal Plaza collected 1,300 signatures requesting the removal of the sculpture. Others argued that the sculpture attracts graffiti and rats, or contended that the sculpture compromised the security and surveillance of the plaza, making the surrounding buildings more vulnerable to terrorist attacks. So the sculpture was removed in 1989 as a result of federal lawsuit. The proposition was to move the sculpture to another place. But, next slide. In the letter to director of the Art and Architecture program of the General Service Administration, Washington, D.C., Richard Serra wrote that his sculpture, Tilted Arc, was commissioned and designed for one particular site, Federal Plaza. It is a site-specific work and as such, not to be relocated. To remove a work is to destroy the work. Further, he elaborated his position. As I pointed out, Tilted Arc was conceived from the start as a site-specific sculpture and was not meant to be site-adjusted or relocated. Site-specific works deal with the environmental components of given places. The scale, size, and location of site-specific works are determined by the topography of site, whether it be urban or landscape or architectural enclosure. The works become part of the site and restructure both conceptually and perceptually the organization of the site. So in 1989, the sculpture was cut in pieces and became an example of critical or political work of art which started site-specific art movement. Whether an artwork merely occupies a site or expresses the sense of place, the act of placing or performing a work of creative expression in public space alerts how that space is seen and how audience see the work. Public art and public space are inextricably linked. Next slide. But during the past 30 years, the definition of site-specific art has been changed a lot. For example, art theoretic Mivong Won says that the distinguishing characteristic of today's site-oriented art is the way in which artwork relationship to the actuality of a location and the social condition of the installation framework are subordinated to a discursively determined site that is delineated as a field of knowledge, intellectual exchange, or culture debates. Furthermore, this site is not defined as a precondition, rather it is generated by the works and then verified by its convergence with an existing discursive formation. Which is to say, the site is now structured intertextually rather than spatially. And next slide, please. For example, in Mark Dion 1991 project on tropical nature, several different definitions of the site operated concurrently. First, the initial site of Dion's intervention was an uninhabited spot in the rainforest near the base of the Orinoco River outside Caracas, Venezuela, where the artist camped for 3 weeks, collecting specimens of various plants and insects, as well as further mushrooms, nests, and stones. These specimens picked up at the end of each week in boxes were delivered to the second site of the project, Sala Mendoza, one of 2 hosting art institutions in Caracas. In the gallery space of the Sala, the specimens were displayed like works of art in themselves, were contextualized within that constitute a third site, the curatorial framework of the thematic group exhibitions. The fourth site, however, although the least material, was the site to which intended a lasting relationship. On tropical nature sought to become a part of the discourse concerning cultural representations of nature and the global environmental crisis. Next slide. So the definition of the site and site-specific art, according to Mivong Kwon, has been transformed from from a physical location, something grounded, fixed, actual, to discursive vector, ungrounded, fluid, virtual. Of course, even if a particular formulation of site-specificity dominates at one moment and recedes at another, the shifts are not always punctual or definitive. They are competing definitions, overlapping with one another and operating simultaneously in various culture or artistical practices today. And next slide. Almost at the same time, between the 70s and the 80s, a new art movement emerged. To put simply, land arts started as a protest against the over commercialization of art and culture, and had will to reconnect the urban environment with nature. In general, land art is an art production that utilizes natural materials or sites. The materials used in artworks were often the materials of the earth, including the soil, rocks, twigs, vegetation, and water found on site. It is an art directly made in the landscape, often distant from population centers. And of course, the most famous land artwork is Robert Smithson's Spiral Jetty of 1970, an earthwork built out in the Great Salt Lake in the United States of America. Though some artists, such as Misson, use mechanical earth-moving equipment to make their artworks, other artists made minimal and temporary interventions into the landscape. And next slide, please. For example, Richard Long, who simply walked up and down until he had made a mark in the earth, or Andy Goldsworthy, who focuses on creating projects that enchants the beauty of nature, the effect of time, and the relation between the human and the nature and the land. And next slide. Some artworks which could be considered as land art might be implied in urban landscape. For example, artist Agnes Dennis project Wheatfield, A Confrontation. The artwork was created during a 4-month period in the spring and summer of 1982, when Dennis, with the support of Public Art Fund, planned a field of golden wheat on 2 acres of rubble-strewn landfill near Wall Street in Lower Manhattan. 200 truckloads of dirt were brought in, and 285 furrows cleared of rocks and garbage and dug by hand. The field was maintained for 4 months, weeded, fertilized, sprayed, and an irrigation system set up. The crops were harvested on August 16, when it yielded over 500 kilograms of healthy golden wheat. Yes, and next slide. So one of the first attempts to describe the tendency to make art based on or inspired by human relations are the social context, and the social context in the 90s was developed by Nicolas Bourriaud in his book Relation Aesthetics. According to Bourriaud, relation art encompasses a set of artistic practices which take as the theoretical and practical point of departure the wall of human relations and their social context, rather than an independent and private space. The artwork creates a social environment in which people come together to participate in a shared activity. Bourriaud claims the role of artworks is no longer to form imaginary or utopian realities, but to actually be ways of living and models of action within the existing realm, whatever scale chosen by the artist. By the way, there are few terms to describe artistic social interventions. Already I mentioned relational art, contextual art, participatory art, dialogue art, community-based art, activist art, or new gender public art. The last one is defined by Susan Lacey as a visual art that use both traditional and non-traditional media to communicate and interact with broad and diversified audience about issues directly relevant to their lives. And artists like Douglas Gordon, Liam Gillick, Rikrit Ravania, Thomas Hirschhorn, and many others who work to this agenda are the artists as facilitators rather than makers. They regard art as an information exchange between them and the viewers or audience. One of many examples of the community-based art are Thomas Hirschhorn project Bataille Monument for Documenta 11 held in Kassel, Germany. And next slide, please. Hirschhorn worked with locals in a low-income, working-class Turkish neighborhood to erect a temporary structure that serves as served as a site for community debates on the writing of French philosopher Georges Bataille. Composed of cardboards and scrap wood, the Bataille monument, do-it-yourself aesthetic, willfully defied the refinement of museum and gallery space. Participants from the neighborhood become part of art project, and for others, like documenta visitors, the Bataille monument was accessible by garishly budget all taxis that were themselves part of the artwork. The project itself was constituted by a series of departments. Mersbow, installation made of recycled materials, silver foil, cardboards and plastic sheeting, held together with duct tapes and covered with messages and aphorisms. A free library filled with books on Bataille's key obsession, including sections on words, sex, and sport. Imbiz, a snack bar run by a local Turkish family, a website and television studio at which locals could create programs on any subject they wished. Also, there were workshops about art and philosophy. So over 5 months, Hirschhorn and his team, which included more than 20 assistants drawn from housing estate residents and young volunteers, constructed, maintained, and eventually removed these various departments. As a project open to the public, it became as an experience poised between success and failure, exposed the persistently troublesome dialogues between contemporary art and the so-called lower class of society. Of course, the Bataille monument was not the first or last artist project. The previous Hirschhorn monuments was dedicated to philosopher Gilles Deleuze and the Swiss writer Robert Walsh, and the last one was made in the Bronx, New York, in 2013, and was dedicated to Gramsci. Next slide, please. So community-based art that emerges from the experience of minority culture or oppressed groups, or calls attention to dimensions of such experience, is usually dealing with audience that typically did not visit traditional art museums. But at the same time, community-based art has met with criticism, most notable from artist Hola Claire Bishop, who, while interrogating the kinds of relationship this art produce, argues that the artists do not so much democratize art as simply reinforce the pre-existing closed art world and whose ignore its implicit class politics. Okay, and the next slide. Through presented art movements, seems that public space might be imagined as a deal or a dead or neutral zone, or a site of agnostic conflict from which citizen identities emerge, and or as a protected safety zone sheltering individual rights, and finally as an endangered commons needed for survival in a world of culture differences, and or a fluid medium of exchange in which culture identities meet, are exchanged, and receive recognition. And after this should be the last slide, where I thank you for attention. And but we do not have in this version. So I thank you all for attention. And if you have any questions, I'm willing to answer them.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Usha, for such interesting and very precise presentation. As I mentioned, that we are gonna have a discussion after all 4 speeches.
Okay.
Speakers. Okay.
Okay, not a problem.
So thank you. And now we are inviting our speaker from Lithuania. It's Gražvyda Tušienė. And she is a lady who is dedicated more than 30 years of nurturing cultural center of Ukmergė. And a couple years ago, she was gifted by award from our government, Ministry of Culture, the best employee of Ukmergė municipality. And the most project glorifying Ukmergė is Festival of Percussion. And Gražvyda Tušienė, are you ready for sharing your experience about the city of percussion Ukmergė and about your experience that Ukmergė in sound?
Labą dieną visiems. Ačiū už tokį gražų pristatymą. Taigi, turbūt norėčiau ir pristatyti apie Ukmergėje sklindančius garsus. Ir kaip mes visi sakome, kad Ukmergė tai yra perkusijų miestas, mes taip prisistatome Lietuvai, mes taip prisistatome ir visam pasauliui. Ir jūsų dėmesiui, kadangi žiūrėjome daug dailės kūrinių, daug skulptūrų, o aš jūsų dabar dėmesiui norėčiau pasidalinti trumpu filmuku apie mūsų perkusijų festivalį. Galbūt siūlyčiau pasiklausyti originalo lietuvių kalba, kad išgirstume puikiai tuos perkusinius garsus, o vėliau aš truputėlį papasakosiu istoriją. Taigi bandau dalintis savo ekranu ir paleisti jums filmą apie mūsų perkusijų festivalį. Šis filmas buvo pristatytas praeitais metais Vilniaus knygų mugės metu.
Lietuvos nepriklausomybės atkūrimas Ukmergėje jau 15 metų paminimas būgnų ir perkusijų gaudesiu. Kovo 11-osios minėjimo metu centrinė aikštė marširuoja perkusininkai, vyksta tarptautinio perkusinės muzikos festivalio svečių koncertai. Pirmasis perkusinės muzikos festivalis Ukmergėje įvyko 2005 metais. Jame dalyvavo atlikėjai ir kompozitoriai iš Jungtinių Amerikos valstijų, Baltarusijos, Latvijos ir Lietuvos. Perkusinę muziką puikiai papildo chorai, solistai bei styginiai instrumentai. Festivalio koncertai vyksta ne tik Ukmergėje. Gražia tradicija tapo draugų koncertai Taujėnų dvare. Mušamų instrumentų skambesio klausėsi ir Deltuvos bei Jonavos žiūrovai. Festivalio metu rengiami džiazo, roko, folk ir klasikinės muzikos koncertai. Žiūrovai turi puikią galimybę išgirsti įvairių instrumentų skambesio. Festivalio koncertuose grojo žymiausi perkusininkai iš Europos šalių, Jungtinių Amerikos valstijų, Brazilijos, Meksikos, Japonijos, Taivano, Pietų Korėjos, Gvinėjos. Didžiausiomis žiūrovų ovacijomis sutinkamos pasaulinės kūrinių premjeros, tapusios neatsiejama festivalio dalimi. Per 15 festivalio metų surengti 59 koncertai, vyko 49 meistriškumo kursai, dalyvavo virš 850 atlikėjų.
Tikrai labai džiaugiuosi ir dėkoju organizatoriams, rėmėjams, globėjams, kad mes kartu skelbiam ne tik Lietuvai, bet ir visam pasauliui, kad Ukmergė yra perkusijos sostinė.
Tai va, trumpai pristatėme, išgirdote garsus, tikiuosi, dabar papasakoti šiek tiek apie visą festivalio istoriją, supažindinti, kas vyksta Ukmergėje ir festivalis jau tikrai yra keliaujantis. Taigi vėl pasidalinsiu savo ekranu. Ir papasakosiu truputėlį apie festivalius, kurie jau vyksta Ukmergėje nuo 2005 metų. Taigi, 2005 metais Ukmergėje įvyksta pirmasis perkusinės muzikos festivalis. Į festivalį atvyksta labai žymus, garsus perkusijos atlikėjas, kompozitorius iš Jungtinių Amerikos valstijų New Rosauro. Tais pačiais metais kartu su festivaliu Ukmergėje organizuojamas ir pirmasis šalyje Jono Taločkos vardo Baltijos Respublikų jaunųjų atlikėjų mušamaisiais instrumentais konkursas. Tuo metu komisijos žiuri pirmininku buvo profesorius Rimvydas Žygaitis. 2006 metais jau klasikinės perkusinės muzikos instrumentus papildo vario, stiklo indai, netgi plastiko konteineriai. Taip pat prie mušamųjų instrumentų skambesio labai puikiai dėrėjo ir vyrų choro brevis balsai. 2007 žymus tuo, kad pirmą kartą festivalio metu buvo atliekamos pasaulinės premjeros. Ta kartą Vilniaus savivaldybės Švento Kristoforo kamerinis orkestras diriguojamas profesoriaus Donato Katkaus ir festivalio perkusininkai atliko dvi pasaulinės premjeras. Tai lietuvių kompozitorių Osvaldo Balakausko ir Loretos Narvilaitės kūrinius. Taip pat tais pačiais metais festivalį pagerbė žymus kompozitorius, atlikėjas Nebojše Džaven Živkovič. Tais pačiais metais perkusijos festivalyje galėjo išgirsti ir lietuviškų skrabalų, kuriais grojo charizmatiškasis mūsų Remigijus Šilinskas skrabalininkas ir taip pat rytietiškų rytų skambesio. 2008 metais puikią būgnų grojimo pamoką praveda virtuozas Gediminas Laurinavičius. Jis surengė ne tik tai koncertą, bet ir išbando žiūrovų galimybę patiems groti būgnais. Taip pat 2008 metais į festivalį atvyksta net 18 muzikantų iš Jungtinių Amerikos valstijų. Jungtinės Amerikos valstijos garso savo maršinę perkusiją ir tai puikiai pademonstruoja jų maršinės perkusijos ansamblis marširuodamas mūsų miesto gatvėmis. Taip pat 2008 metais į festivalio koncertus įtraukiami džiazo muzikos koncertai. Pirmajame festivalio džiazo muzikos koncerte grojo beveik visos Lietuvos džiazo žvaigždės. Matome ir Petrą Vyšniauską, Saulių Šiaučiulį, Gintarą Šulinską ir visus kitus. 2009 metais perkusijos koncertas surengiamas ir bažnyčioje. Ta kartą į Švento Petro ir Povilo bažnyčią pakvietė Stanislav Skočinski, kuris atliko poemą Mušamiesiems Kristaus kelią, o tekstus skaitė tuometinis Ukmergės dekanas kunigas Gintautas Kabašinskas. 2010 metais festivalio atidarymo koncerte skamba pasaulinės muzikos šedevras Karlo Orfo kantata Carmina Burana. Šį puikų kūrinį atlieka net 2 studentų chorai, žinomi garsūs solistai Irena Zelenkauskaitė, Kęstutis Alčiauskis, Ignas Misiūra. Jiems groja baltarusių perkusinis ansamblis, fortepijonais groja Irina Avdėjeva ir Natalija Zubova. O visam šitam koncertui dirigavo docentas Laurynas Vakaris Lopas. Tai iš tikrųjų buvo nuostabus kūrinys ir vienintelis pasaulyje tokios sudėties jo atlikimas. 2011 metais perkusinės muzikos festivalių koncertus papildo ir poezija. Poezijos ir muzikos vakaras Nusileis dangau ant žemės. Jį atliko akordeonistas Kazys Tonkus, aktorius Rolandas Kazlas ir Andrius Radziukynas. 2012 metai perkusininkas iš Lenkijos Piotras Siutas surengė unikalų projektą koncertą žmonėms su negale. Taigi žmonės su negale, vaikai su negale galėjo išmėginti save didžiojoje scenoje ir jie sugrojo bendrą kūrinį. 2012 metais taip pat mūsų festivalis pasipildė meksikietiškais garsais, o meksikietiškos muzikos spalvas tada padovanojo marimbistas iš Meksikos Dževieras Nandanjapa ir akordeonistas Kazys Tonkus. 2013 metai mums suskamba Vakarų Afrikos būgnų garsais. Vakarų Afrikos tradicinius ritmus mušė Vakarų Afrikos būgnų mokyklos ansamblis, o afrikiečių liaudies dainas dainavo Vilniaus mokytojų namų mišrus choras Belkanto. 2014 metai. Festivalis atsinaujina. Festivalio meno vadovu tampa profesorius Edgar Saksons, o festivalio globėjų Ukmergės rajono garbės pilietis, diplomatas Vygaudas Ušackas. 2014 metais festivalis prasideda kovo 8 ir koncertas pavadinamas Moteris moterims, nes moterims nuostabų koncertą dovanojo perkusinės muzikos atlikėja Silvija Reiner iš Prancūzijos ir ansamblis Artišok iš Latvijos. Taip pat 2014 metais festivalio metu surengiamas festivalio folk koncertas, kuriame latvių liaudies melodijas atliko perkusinės muzikos ansamblis Auli iš Latvijos. 2015. Perkusijos metu šalia visų mušamųjų instrumentų suskamba ir paprasti oro balionai. Nuostabų kūrinį oro balionais atliko perkusinės muzikos ansamblis iš Norvegijos, Sisu Percussion Ensemble. 2016 vėl atliekamos dvi pasaulinės premjeros. Atvyksta kompozitorius Jim Lin paklausyti savo muzikinio kūrinio premjeros, kurią atlieka Lietuvos kamerinis orkestras, diriguojamas Modesto Pitrėno, o solo partijas mušamaisiais atlieka Pei Čingvu ir Pavel Günther. Kaip matote, pilnutėlė žiūrovų salė ir aišku labai apgailestaujame, bet visų norinčių mes negalėjom tą dieną sutalpinti. Taip pat 16 metais įvyksta ir džiazo muzikos koncertas, į kurį atvyksta netikėtas svečias, pro šalį važiavęs svečias iš Brazilijos Zi Kojati. Jis tiesiog per porą dienų surepetavo kūrinį ir atliko kartu su Vilnius Jazz Orchestra. Tai tiesiog buvo labai netikėtas ir puikus koncertas. 2017 metais jau Vakarų Afrikos ritmus girdėtus šį kartą atlieka tikri svečiai iš Gvinėjos. Atvyksta 2 profesionalūs baleto šokėjai ir 2 perkusinės muzikos atlikėjai. Taip pat pasaulinės klasikos šedevrą Carmen Suite kartu su Lietuvos kameriniu orkestru atlieka ir mūsų festivalio meno vadovas Edgar Saksas, o nuotraukoje dešinėje kampe matome ir savo kūrinio premjeros besiklausančios mūsų lietuvių kompozitorės Loretos Narvilaitės. Ta kūrinį atliko švedų perkusininkų duetas. 2018 metais festivalis netelpa į savo rėmus, festivalis keliauja ir festivalis važiuoja į Deltuvos kultūros namus. Ten pristatomos puikus koncertas ir tikiuosi labai patiko vietiniams gyventojams. Svečiuose taip pat kovo 11-ąją groja nebe Lietuvos kamerinis orkestras, o svečiai iš Latvijos, tai Latvijos kamerinis orkestras ir diriguoja charizmatiškasis dirigentas Brent Šembri iš Maltos. Taip pat turim svečius iš Rusijos, tai džiazo kvartetas Čižik Jazz Quartet. 2019 į perkusinės muzikos koncertus įsilieja ir kinas. Ta kartą koncertas dar surengiamas ir Jonavos kultūros centre ir įvyksta festivalio pasaulinė premjera. Tai nebylaus Lloydo filmo Saugumas paskutinėje vietoje muzikinis pristatymas. Šiam filmui muziką sukūrė latvių kompozitorius Platons Buravickis, o aranžuoti mušamiesiems instrumentams Richards Zalupė. Tikrai buvo puikus koncertas, kai nebylų kiną įgarsino mušamųjų grupė. 2020 festivalis pristatomas Vilniaus knygų mugėje. Matėte ir filmuką, kuris buvo demonstruotas Vilniaus knygos mugės metu. Čia taip pat matome mūsų Pavel Günther Percussion ansamblį, kuris pristatė mūsų Vilniaus knygų mugės lankytojams mūsų festivalį gyvai. Taip pat koncertas pirmą kartą keliasi į Vilnių vienas festivalio ir įvyksta Lietuvos muzikos ir teatro akademijoje. Ir kovo 11-ąją įvyksta festivalio koncertas, kurio metu groja net 2 orkestrai. Tai pirmojoje dalyje Lietuvos kamerinis orkestras, o antrojoje dalyje groja mūsų valstybinis pučiamųjų instrumentų orkestras Trimitas, kuriem diriguoja Ugnius Vaiginis ir kartu su Günther Percussion atlieka kūrinį mušamiesiems. Aišku, 2020 metai jau pandeminiai metai, taigi šiek tiek keitėsi festivalio koncertų programa, bet festivalis įvyko. Tikiuosi, kad ši pandemija nesugriaus ir šių metų festivalio, nors festivalis jau numatytų laikų, tradicinių laikų, tai kovo 11 skirtas jau neįvyksta, mes tiesiog visiems ukmergiškiams leidome nuo kultūros centro balkono perkusinę muziką. Tiesiog pristatėme nuotraukas ir tikimės, kad čia būgnai skambėjo ir čia būgnai skambės. Festivalio koncertų vedėjai per 16 metų buvo muzikologai Viktoras Gerulaitis ir Darius Užkuraitis. Festivalio metu gimė tradicijos, tai kovo 11 Lietuvos nepriklausomybės atkūrimo dieną surengti perkusininkų pasirodymus prie Laisvės paminklo. Festivalio metu rengti draugų koncertus Taujėnų dvare. Festivalio metu organizuoti ir meistriškumo kursus, kuriuose nemokamai gali dalyvauti visi norintys. Taip pat festivalio koncertai jau vyksta ir kitose vietose bei kitose miestuose. Festivalio skaičiai. Įvyko festivalių 16, meistriškumo kursų 46, surengta koncertų 63 ir dalyvavo atlikėjų 906. Taigi, kaip ir kalbėjau, kad tikrai labai noriu tą tokią linksmą natą baigti pristatymą ir manau, kad šių metų vasarą mes tikrai išgirsime perkusininkus Ukmergėje ir tie, kurie susidomėjo, kurie girdėjo pristatymą šiandien, konferencijos dalyvis, tikrai nuoširdžiai labai kviečiu apsilankyti. Ačiū.
Ačiū labai, Gražvyda, jums. Thank you so much for the very nice, great representation of the festival. Yeah, and now I want to invite Edgars. Are you here?
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much that you are here. The lecture Sounds in Surroundings, Edgars Saksons, Latvia, is artistic director and a solo performer, chamber musician, orchestra player, participant in various musical stage productions, and laureate of Latvian's Grand Music Award in 2001. Edgars' stage partners include Steve Reich. It's a great pleasure to have you here, Edgars. Thank you that you are here, and please, screen is yours.
Thank you so much. Labas rītas, draugai Lietuvoje, and Gražvyda, I see Rīma and Sigita and Arvidas, and good morning, everybody. I'm really happy to be here, and very nice to invite me as part of Lithuanian side, because I'm a Latvian in general. Maybe I can talk in Latvian and you can translate immediately to English now. Yeah, that's
Not
my
yet.
fault. I can speak Lithuanian very, very little. Yeah, that's my future work. My first question to Ernest, please, you put my videos and photos in.
Okay, we will arrange it. So I know that you have numbers about it, so I should put by the numbers, yes?
Yeah, by the numbers, yeah. And yeah, this was the first year in my last 11 years, I think so, because I visited the percussion festival in Ukmergē since 2010 as participant and as jury member in the competitions, and only from the 2014 I'll be the head of this festival, and this was the first year we missed it. It's very sad, but last year, 2020, 11th of March was the last concert with the audience for me before the big pandemic side, and I will talk today about feeling this last year for everybody of us, and I will talk as seeing the pandemic concert hall is a walk on a nature. And please, Ernest, the first video. Thank you. Yeah, and after the 13th of March last year, we start to thinking what we can do in this situation. We cannot play the concert. We cannot play concert with the audience. We cannot come orchestra together. And what we can do, and this was the first project when we separately recorded this Beethoven piece and put all these pictures on this very nice video. And from that moment, we start to think how it's a way, what we can do, how we can compensate lack of the live concert. And I will talk about 4 different nature concert hall types. You'll see the first of them. But the first one, I will talk about the stage in a nature. It means we have a lot of nature concert halls in Latvia. We have a lot of festivals in the trees, in a landscape. We have the greatest concert hall in Jūrmala city, in Dzintari Concert Hall. It's an outdoor concert hall with 2,000 seats. It's 50 meters from seaside. But I will start with the biggest Latvian, the Nature Concert Hall. It's a method for public awareness raising which has been tested and practiced in over 17 municipalities of Latvia over 10 years and shows that it is possible through a specially targeted, interactive and multidisciplinary approach to attract many thousands of people from different backgrounds, change perception of the importance of sustainable development and motivate them to introduce change. Each year, a specific species is selected as the year's mascot on hero through which the event is created. The species dictates the development of the event in terms of the first, the location selected to that audience can see the element firsthand. The second, the music which each year is created anew in line with the species habitat, behavior evolutions. And the third, the interactive workshops crafted by the year's K scientists, researchers, and showcase in species of clothes. The Nature Concert Hall. The first is symbiosis of nature, music, science, visual art, and poetry. The second, an interactive educational event on nature. The third, an event that occurs in the summer in a previously undiscovered niche in nature. And the fourth, an ambient event conducted in the open air. It is on coincidence that the first Nature Concert Hall took place in the North Vidzeme. It's one of fourth part of Latvia country. Bishoper Reserve, globally, Bishoper Reserves are places where the economic activities of people are conducted, organized, and in harmony with nature protection activities. The Nature Concert Hall continues to organize its events in very close collaboration with not only the North Vidzeme Bishoper Reserve, but with the Nature Conservation Agency of Latvia as a whole. As a main agency responsible for nature conservation in Latvia, its teams input every year in vital to our success, and their information platform creates community on information generated from our events. And I will show you the one small part of one from this National Concert Hall concerts. Please, video number 2. Thank you, Ernest. Thank you, Ernest. And can you please change to photo number 3? Yeah. Here you can see the biggest open-air concert hall in Jurmala city. It found it 50 meters from seaside, from Baltic Beach, and in summer period between middle of May and middle of September. In normal time, he will run around 100 concerts. Sometimes we will have 6-7 concerts in a week. A lot of rock music concerts and a lot of classical symphony music and chamber concerts. And when you listen in this hall, the classical music concert without amplifying, in general, you are deep inside nature because you can listen beside the music, the sound of the sea, sound of the birds, the urban sounds from the cars, from the motorcycles, from the closest restaurants, and yeah. And please, can you switch to photo number 4? And here we can see the Ukmergės Kastelmond in Ukmergės city in Lithuania. And this is a magic place. I have listened many information about this place, but we never made a concert here. And I hope in this pandemic situation, maybe this summer, we can play the outdoor concerts, and then maybe we can make some concerts here in this beautiful place. And this will be one of the greatest natural concert hall in Lithuania, as I know. Thank you, Anasta. Next type of concert hall for us is when we're walking in the nature and we have our earphones. And we can mix the walking with our feelings, and we can listen music what we want. And this last months, when we cannot come together and play the concerts, that's myself. It's my base concert hall, because option is, of course, you can sit on your sofa and watch on TV and watch your digital concert halls from the different world orchestras. But for me, this best way is I put earphones and go to the nature, many kilometers of the seaside, and then you can listen music what you feel. For example, the small videos, please, number 6. this video is made just only 10 days ago. It was snow in Jurmala, and I put Wagner Gottverdammung on my earphones and walking this way more than 10 kilometers. And this absolutely excellent mix between the nature and music. Then please, can you put the video number 5? Thank you, you can see the video like this. You can watch on YouTube. I think a lot of, and of course you can make it yourself by the nature. You can walk in the seaside, on the trees, landscape, and put your music what you want to listen and make your feeling maybe much better sometimes in the concert hall and live. The nature as concept, I think this is a theme which we have every deep inside us. And in normal life, we running very fast. We do a lot of things and we have no time to stop and start to listen inside yourself. And I think this moment is very, very great. You have time to do it. And that's what I do. I'm walking without these earphones, and I start losing spring. I start listening my wishes. I start to speaking with the nature. I start to speaking with my soul, and I think this is very, very important for this pandemic situation. And we have so beautiful natural sounds around us that normally we have no time to listen to that. And please, Ernest, put these two small videos, number 7, number 8. There's some special videos from the Latvia. The first one is from Jūrmala city, and the second one is from Thank you. And the fourth type of concert hall is when the nature come in concert hall. And the first time I met this situation in 2015 in Luzern Festival, when composer Todd Makover read his Luzern Symphony. It is a story about 4,000 to 5,000 people from Luzern sent him the urban noises from all city, and he mixed this records with classical music and play this piece in a concert hall. And I will show you the interview with them. Please, video number 9.
I'm Todd Makover, and I'd like to invite you to join me on a very unusual musical adventure. The idea is to create a symphony about this beautiful city of Luzern called Eine Sinfonie für Luzern. And what's unusual about it is that I'll be working on this piece as a composer, but I'd like all of you to create it with me. And together we'll listen to this city, think about the feel of this city, and think about how to convey that in music to people who live here and to people all around the world. We'll do this first by literally going around the city, listening carefully to recording sounds which are very familiar, like the lake side or a park or the train station, but also trying to find sounds which only you know. The sound from your house, or perhaps some construction or mechanical sound that we don't usually associate with the city. The widest variety would be the best. You can go and record these sounds, find out how to record, and send them to this address. As the project develops, we'll have many different ways that people can participate, by improvising, by singing, by combining sounds together with special apps that we're going to make with my team at the MIT Media Lab back in Boston. And little by little, between now and the summer 2015, all of our ideas will come together. We'll decide what the story of the piece is, what the theme, what the feeling is, until we have this symphony which represents this city in a very, very different way. So this project, Eine Sinfonie für Luzern, begins now. And I invite all of you to collaborate with me and to make this musical portrait of Luzern. Go to this website now and over the coming months to find out how you can contribute. And I hope to meet as many of you as possible and to work together to make a new kind of symphony that will show what the city feels like and sounds like to people all over the world.
Thank you. And then finally, I will say thank you for your attention, and I hope we very close time can back in normal life and can play the concerts with the audience inside, outside. But really, I hope so. This summer we will meet each other in an open air concert hall inside the nature. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Edgar, so much that you are showing us new ways how to create. And it was a very interesting thing about that in so dangerous situation, of course, our minds, our creativity can be like an example for the people who cannot do that, yeah? Because the creative people finding new and new ways how to be. I think it's when in this video where it's the plastic bag or mask is flying through the world, it's going tears from my eyes. Yeah, I agree with you that it's a lot of tragic imaginations of world we have now in our hearts. So, but you mentioned a few very good and very nice ways that nature is like a concert, and the listening is one of the main creativity forms for us now. Maybe, yeah. But I have one conclusion from this report that you are bringing us to the way where we can go faster we are coming maybe faster to the creativities, the open code, you know, when the people or audience or some our colleagues can be in the contemporary art, a contemporary piece of art, to be together, yeah, to have possibility to participate in it, yeah. And I think that this our week will be concerned on it, yeah, and we are turning attention to this main idea that to make something together, it's much more better to understand each other and to have much more impressive ideas and much more be lovely to our sites or to our cities, yeah, and to be much more familiar with our surroundings, yeah. Thank you so much, Edgar.
Thank you, Czesław.
Yes, for sure. I just can say that it's the same. It's very sensitive way. I saw in your presentation how human comes more and more to nature and they open for each other, especially when I saw that idea or maybe that music hall is for real, then I can like a human being hear the musicians and at the same time even cars from the street. So that this is the idea and maybe the direction in which Corona even says us to go, that we are more and more open. We don't do boxes from the nature, and any sound doesn't disturb anybody. Cause like here we have our event, Plain Air Creative Event online, and we all are in our spaces. And what is very interesting that in our spaces, like most of us are at home, we have kids, cats, dogs, and everybody are participating. And that noise, it doesn't disturb anymore. Or when I am even talking like a moderator, I meet the fear that maybe somebody can talk. Even I said that you can't talk because I am now so important, but it's life. I just taste a very, very, very big that thing that life, nature, and human are coming more and more close. So thank you for the presentation. I'm just wondering, we are like some time expired of our first part, because in the program we plan to have a discussion, but I made two suggestions. One suggestion, then maybe we just can for 1 or 2 minutes to move together, because then I hear the sound and music. I can't just stand like this, and we are sitting here for 2 hours already, and maybe we just can in a chat to leave our emails, and if somebody has a question, just to connect personally. So, or if not, we just can move. Or if this suggestion is as well not very welcome for you, just show the sign, and we will close our circle, morning circle. And a second public day from the 5-day event.
So maybe something is thinking to ask something or not, and I want to say a few marks and maybe some questions. For me, what's very interesting, Lars, understanding about land art. I want to ask Lars, maybe you can say a few sentences that land art as a protest or against museums and galleries. What do you think? Is this concept is now actual in Europe? What do you think?
I don't remember her name, but the woman the researcher that presented after me, she talked about the relational art.
Yeah, Auschwitz was talking about.
Yes, I think the relational art is very big today. And land art is a part of that. Art that has some kind of strategy behind it, and social questions. The artists work with social questions of different kind. They are interested in things, and they want to make art about it, like ecology, for example. So I think in that way, land art is relevant still. I don't think that people, I mean, it's not, it's not like that artists are against galleries or museums. It's just that they want their freedom, I think. And Rosalind Krauss wrote about historicism, that when you are on a museum and when you place art pieces together side by side, then they become just one art piece among others. But if you create something yourself outside this environment, the gallery or the museum environment, then the piece stands for itself. So, yeah, is that a good answer enough, or what do you think?
Yeah, thank you very much. And another one, it was very interesting. Maybe I have suggestion to understand this idea or concept deeper. about inside art or side art and outside and non-side art. It was in your report was mentioned, and it was very important that that it's of course when the art piece in gallery he has no side. It's interesting. Yeah, thank you, Lars, so much.
And I will connect it to tomorrow. I will connect this dialectic about non-sites and sites to the digital storytelling, digital site-specific storytelling.
Okay, thank you very much. And we will see you tomorrow on the lecture, and with these questions, maybe we'll return back. Yeah. Okay. Aushra, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. For me, it's interesting, Aushra. Can you focus a little bit, few sentences about that? This site-specific or special site or place for art is some kind of platform to have some cognitive or sensitive or practical, activistic, and some kind of relationship, like a platform for international connections or relationships. Do you agree with it or not? What do you say?
Thank you, Czesław, for the question. Well, it was a problem for me to present site-specific art because I wrote a PhD about on this topic, and of course, to put in 1 or 2 pages was really hard. So, I just kind of mentioned only the most typical changes in site-specific art and the definition of site-specific art. And the thing is that site-specific became so popular. I think it's because of various biennals and artist residence and I don't know, exchange programs, especially globally, because it came as a thing that it was inviting artists to do something specially for one or another place. So it came really global, I don't know, attitude, and in a way it spread a lot, and in a way it's changed a lot, because when we think about how it started with Richard Serra, and it's something based on the site, in 30 years period, it become very fluid, very global. And of course, you can imagine that like artists coming to art residency for, let's say, 3 months, even though it's not enough time to get in connection with the site, with the atmosphere, with history of, and yeah. And one point, site-specific art is it's interesting about because it makes you thinking about special sites, what the history of the site is, at another way. It not how to say, it lost the main idea, the art connected with site, and become very discursive, very fluid, very, I don't know, even political.
Thank you, Aushra. Yeah, in that case, I want to make note for another one question. What said Edgar's? Yeah, I think that. For example, it's good example for all of us because this platform, like a percussion festival, is like example how to create a platform to have international relationships, yeah, and this documentation from Gražvyda, when she showed the video, yeah, we can see that. A lot of possibilities how to make art cross borders, yeah, and to make various genres of art, yeah, and it can be, of course, not only on stage, and of course sculptures can be not only on squares. Yeah, it was I think it's good, a good way what we are going to do in this residence week in Ukmergėje. We can to find and to learn each other, or to teach maybe something each other, how to expand our understanding about our special things or special medias what we are making, yeah, and to exchange our practice, not only like a professionals, but also like and humans who have possibilities to exchange our experiences, various experiences. Yeah, maybe someone want to say something till our lunch. So Ernesta, what do you think?
I think we have a silence, like an agreement with that we can finish our public part of today, and the artist will meet after lunchtime. Yes, 2 o'clock Lithuania and then 1 o'clock at Netherlands and Sweden time.
Okay. See you later.
See you later.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. See you later. Thank you.
Thank you.